In life, we tend to look up to people. Sometimes, if we're very fortunate, we find someone who's able to guide us, someone's able to teach us, someone who has this purity or this knowledge or this insight that can actually enhance our lives and help us to understand more about our purpose. But unfortunately, in society nowadays, sometimes we seek the wrong type of role models. Sometimes younger people, they tend to look at the famous like musicians and actors and actresses. But how much are they of good guidance for us? You see, their role in life might be to get fame and to get wealth and to have followers. But what knowledge, what experiences of life can they provide us that's going to help us to understand more about our own life and our own purpose of being here? And this is why we have to be very, 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 very careful who we select as our mentors. You see, at different stages of life, we are highly influenced. We're highly influenced by our peers, for instance. And they sometimes take us in the wrong direction because we want to be similar to them or like them or have what they have in life. And it's not just about younger people, older people. Older people aspire to be like the younger people sometimes, and the younger people like to aspire how to be the older people. And therefore, everyone is influenced. But sometimes that influence sends us down the wrong path. You see, not everyone's got good habits. Not everyone's got good wisdom. Not everyone has this beautiful life that we imagine. Even if they're famous and they're so wealthy, it doesn't mean that they have this purity about them. Sometimes they're very, very lost souls. There's very, very few actors or actresses or musicians who don't get caught up in intoxicants and bad association and can't even deal with all the fame that they have. So it's important to have right mentors in life. Now, why am I talking about this? Today I'm reading the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam as translated by Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And in this particular verse, which is 1st Canto, chapter 6, verse 1, Vyasadeva has seen the growth of Narayana Muni. He's seen him grow and evolve, and he's seen how much he has learned and how much of a learned soul he has become. And this is very, very, very important because he wants to learn more, because the more he learns, the more inspiration he can gain. And it's very, very, very beautiful to be able to share this with every other reader of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. You see, for me, I sometimes created my own guidance based on what I thought was right for me. I wasn't a follower, as I mentioned previously, of one particular guru or one particular teacher or one particular god. And therefore, I took a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Fortunately, I didn't get caught up in those famous ones of the actors and the actresses and the musicians, because I realised actually their life isn't so wholesome and so beautiful as one thinks they are. So I was very fortunate not to get caught up in those in my younger years. But now, in Krishna consciousness, things have slightly started to change. You see, I have always been an independent person. I like to experiment and find out for myself. But I didn't really achieve as much as I thought I had achieved when I look back in retrospect. I used to create my own philosophy on life. But now I take the guidance of my spiritual masters, and that is very, 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 very important. You see, in the past, just doing your own bit of pieces, doing your own little bit of research, a little bit of investigation, own studies, you tend to do what you feel is right for you, but don't necessarily look at the harder and the more challenging subjects and aspects which are our weaknesses. But when we take some guidance, we start to realise we can't just cut the corners. We can't just jump to the 10th canto of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam as everyone seems to outside of Krishna consciousness, because they feel they want to just experience and understand all the beautiful pastimes of the Lord. No, we need to study. We need to study from the front, the beginning, the first canto. When we start studying from the first canto, we start to learn about who the Lord is and our relationship with the Lord and what it means to be devotional, what it means to serve. You see, it's no different to other things in life that we do. It's like, for instance, you can't become a champion tennis player if you don't learn the basics, firstly, of how to hold a racket, how to hit the ball, where to hit the ball on the racket, where to hit the ball over the net. And you've got to build up these skills. And these skills don't come from just doing it every now and then. You have to do regular practices. And if you want to become experienced, you want to become a champion, you're going to have to make it the center of your life. And this is the key. You see, when it comes to sports and we feel, oh, do you know what, I really like this, we sometimes make it the center of our life. And everything runs around it. Our social life runs around it, our work life runs around it, our study runs around it. And we just focus, this is what we want to do, and make it the center of our life. Well, it's no different to being devotional to the Lord. If we just fit the Lord into our lives when we feel like it, it's very difficult to get deeper. What happens is we find ourselves just touching the outside, just dabbling our toe. But dabbling our toe, is that going to get us to understand more about Krishna consciousness? It's hard. You see, I remember when I first came to Krishna consciousness as a Vanapasta monk 3 years ago, I found it very, very, very hard to study. I wasn't a student from my younger years. I was a challenged person who found it hard to study. And similarly, as an adult, I similarly found it difficult. But I did start. I started by reading the Bhagavad Gita. I knew I needed to read it, so I started to work my way through it, each day reading a few verses, until eventually I finished it. But, and there is a big but here, I didn't understand anything I read. It just went all over my head. I didn't understand what the Lord was trying to teach us in the Bhagavad Gita. Nothing. I didn't understand its meaning, but I was just pleased to read it. But something very transformative has happened in the last 3 years since I've been in ISKCON Vrindavan. No one's actually taught me anything as such in respect to sitting down in a classroom. I take the guidance of my spiritual master, who was the one who inspired me to start reading the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and also helped me to read the Bhagavad Gita. And then all of a sudden I realized something had changed. But what had caused the change? And what was this change? This change was my ability to start to read, not only to read, but get this taste, this rasa for wanting to read the Bhagavad Gita and the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. But where did it come from? Because I didn't have a day-to-day teacher teach me anything. Nothing. And then I realized that everything that was happening, every bit of transformation that was taking place, was not just about learning how to read, but going through the process of chanting the Lord's name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting and starting to read started to become transformative, but it was the chanting that was the ultimate aspect to me and my understanding of what it means to go that little bit more deeper and have the ability, thanks to the mercy of the Lord, to allow me to have a little bit more intelligence, so that I can chant and start to understand a little bit what was going on underneath. Because from the start, when I started to chant, I actually didn't realise why I was chanting and what I was chanting and why I should chant and what benefits. But the benefits aren't the reason why we chant. When we start to get devotional with the Lord, it wasn't just only about chanting. The other aspect was to serve. I remember listening to a pastime of Srila Prabhupada. Someone came to see him and they said, I've got lots of questions for you. And Srila Prabhupada sent that person to the kitchens and asked him to do some service. So that person did some service for a few hours. And then he came back to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam says, okay, what questions do you have? And he says, I don't have any questions anymore. And this is the beauty about devotional service. Devotional service is very, 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 very different to what we think it is. It isn't just about doing some cleaning. It isn't just about doing some cooking or some gardening or some other tasks or other skills. There is something much, much, much deeper when it comes to devotional service. And what I have realized through devotional service is it teaches us how to serve. Not just to do work, but how to serve the Lord. And combined together with the chanting of the Maha Mantra, all of a sudden my mindset started to change. I noticed certain skills started to change. I noticed my awareness of what was going on in life. I've still got so much to learn, but this little bit more that I'm beginning to pick up each time I go to chanting, each time I start to do some more service. And then lo and behold, all of a sudden, I'm understanding a little bit more. The Lord has given me that little bit more intelligence. And it's beautiful. I mean, 3 years ago, there was no way that I'll be doing these videos, for instance. As 3 years ago, I'd not be able to explain a verse of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam in the way that I'm able to. But my knowledge is very, very limited. It's limited because I have a certain capacity, and I have to have an acceptance of that capacity. I'm not a sage like Narada Muni, who's got such an ability and a love for the Lord. No, I am just this small little humbling servant, and I accept what the Lord enables me to do by his arrangement. And it's very, 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 very beautiful, because the moment I surrender myself and just, okay, accept this is what I can do based on what the Lord enables me to do at this particular moment in time, then there are no limitations. But when I seek to go too deep, too quickly, it's trying to run before I walk. Going back to the tennis analogy, I can't go and become put myself into a championship match if I haven't learnt the basics. And this is what the Lord is teaching us through chanting, through service, through kirtan, through reading, through talking about the Lord. And all of a sudden, a certain cleansing, a certain purification taking place, which enables our intellect, our knowledge, our intelligence to start to increase. We're in Kali Yuga, so there's still always going to be limitations, but what I'm able to do and what I'm able to understand is far more than what I was able to do before becoming a Vanapasta monk. But it's still so little. But that's fine. That's fine. I have acceptance. And that's another beautiful thing to have. Just to accept what is going on in this life, rather than setting our targets too hard or too wide or too far in order to be able to move forward in a way that is transformative. The other aspect of this verse that I was reading about is Narada Muni took association with the Lord, and he also felt this separation when he wasn't with the Lord. This separation was painful for him. I can't understand what that really meant, because not only did he have this relationship with the Lord, he was very, very, very close. But for me, I'm just this small humbling servant. I can't understand that at the moment, what it means to have that close relationship with the Lord. But what I do know is the more I serve, the more I chant, the more I think, the more I talk, the more I listen about the Lord, the more love and love and love we share. And that's beautiful, because all he wants to do, the Lord, is share love, love and love. And that is beautiful. I find that sometimes that occasionally when I have to leave the mandir, just like Narada Muni was feeling the separation, I have my own version of separation. I remember the first time I had to leave Bhaktivedanta Manor in London to come to India. It was very, very emotional to leave the deities and the devotees. Very, 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 very difficult. And similarly, on the odd occasion when I leave the mandir here in Vrindavan, I found it originally similarly just emotional. But what I've begun to realize so much more is that wherever I am, the Lord is with me. And that's beautiful. And that's beautiful to know that He's there, guiding us, teaching us, listening to us, witnessing what we're doing. And with that peace of mind, I felt on my last trip, which I'm just returning from now, it was so much easier. It was so much easier because I didn't feel like I was leaving something that was going to be heartbreaking in the way that I had. Of course, I love the deities in Vrindavan, and yes, they are still there, but I felt that the presence, and that's very, 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 very beautiful. So, sometimes we miss things in life because we hanker for them. But the Lord teaches us to accept what is happening, to have the knowledge that He's there everywhere wherever we go. And it's very, 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 very beautiful. So, what I'd like to do is ask you a question now. What does it feel like to you in respect to your studies? Do you find that it's hard to go that little bit deeper? Do you find that you are a DIY spiritual person who likes to do it your way? Do you find that you possibly limit yourself? Are you actually exploring areas of your life that you wouldn't necessarily choose to if there wasn't a need to? And what I mean by a need to is sometimes we just focus on what we're good at, but we don't focus on our weaknesses. Do you do that? Because that's exactly what I used to do. But now the Lord is teaching me how to go that little bit deeper and to face up to certain things that are my weaknesses, which I wouldn't normally choose to deal with. Not because I'm studying a syllabus where I go from this is what we study in week 1, what we study in week 2, first month or second month or 6th month, or whatever, or I've got a certain experience, therefore I go on to this next level. The Lord teaches us in such a beautiful way that He creates our own syllabus, and therefore we learn whatever we need to learn when He feels we're ready to learn. So what is it like for you? Are you that DIY spiritualist? Do you find that you are possibly limited in other respects to what your spiritual life is? Are you looking to go that little bit deeper? Or are you just putting your little toe in the water? Whichever way the situation you're in is perfect. But maybe there is something more in Krishna consciousness that might enable you to go that little bit deeper, and gain a little more experience and knowledge and intellect, and maybe discover more about who you are and why these other guides, our mentors, our spiritual masters are there to inspire us in such beautiful ways that we can actually evolve ourselves and discover more about who we are and what our purpose in life is. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.